Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Nat. And let me just start by reinforcing what Paul has said, which is this is a network, an organisation that is being set up irrespective of what happens at the next election. And I think it's something that badly needs to be done. I think it fills a huge gap in our country, and I enthusiastically back it. But it is non-political. It will never be political. I hope this current government, if it's re-elected, will support it, and certainly if I'm elected, I will support it. That is very important to get that clear right from the start. I just wanted, before I have three things to say, but before that, I'm not sure Paul and Nat gave themselves a big enough bigging up. They're modest people, but I think it is exciting that in launching this organisation, there are two of the most successful social entrepreneurs in our country. Nat played a very big part in setting up Teach First, which is one of my sort of favourite social enterprises that encourages some of the brightest graduates from the best universities to go and teach in some of the toughest schools in our country. It's been a huge success. It completely inspires me and my team, and we're looking at a number of imitations of it, whether it is getting people to do the same in social work or whether it's getting people out of our armed forces into schools. I think it's a model social enterprise and one that should be celebrated. In terms of Paul, he was being very modest. Changed the World for a Fiver, I think sold, what, 1 million copies? Yeah. He's been able to take brilliant, inspiring, and often quite amusing ideas and give them a mass launch, which is what this organisation will need, as well as working with Comic Relief and many other organisations. The three things I want to say just in a couple of minutes is that, first of all, why does all this matter? And secondly, what are we going to do about it? And the third is just a thought about this organisation. Why does all this matter? Well, it seems to me blindingly obvious that we will never tackle the really deep social problems we have in our country, whether it's drug and alcohol abuse, whether it's homelessness, whether it is persistent unemployment. We'll never tackle them through state action alone. Some of the problems Paul was talking about, loneliness, for instance, is, of course, it's obvious that government can't tackle it alone. So you need to have the big society. You need to have the big society and a more active society to tackle those social problems. But even if you take a more hard-headed view about life and think that life is all about economics, I would argue that actually you'll never have a strong economy in the competitive world unless you tackle the social problems and keep the cost on your government and on your society down. So for economic reasons, it's absolutely vital. But if, like me, as well as thinking society and economics are important, if you actually think well-being is important, all the evidence shows that societies in which people feel engaged, people feel active, people feel they have control, are not just good societies, they're societies in which people feel happier. We feel unhappy, we feel frustrated, we feel angry when we're unable to control the world around us. And I think that is what's so inspiring about this agenda. Second point, what do we do about it? Well, I'm absolutely committed, as I've just set out in a very long speech, not very far away, that government can't just say, let's hope the big society springs to life miraculously because we're enthusiastic about it. Government has to catalyse, has to act, has to encourage, has to think of all the ways it can encourage greater social activism. That can start with a political party like mine, saying that if you want to be a candidate, you've got to set up a social action project. You've got to mentor local kids. It can be saying to the civil servants, you're not just civil servants, from now on you're civic servants, and you should be doing other things in the community as well as just running the great Whitehall bureaucracy. Governments do have levers they can pull to help build the big society, and believe me, if I'm elected, I will pull every lever I have to help encourage the big society. But the fact is, government cannot, in fact should not try to do it all itself. We need great organisations like this one to actually do the heavy lifting of encouraging people that it is possible to play a bigger part in your society, in your community, in your life. So I think this is absolutely vital that an organisation like this exists. Third and final point, which I hadn't fully understood before listening to Paul and Nat today, is that you can tell these are very bright and enterprising people because they've had, I think, a brilliant and bright and enterprising idea, which is to make this effectively a cooperative. I think it's a brilliant way of actually encouraging as many people as possible, as many organisations as possible, to come into this as part of an umbrella. And I think that's a very inspiring way of thinking about what this organisation could become. So thank you very much for inviting me here today to lend my support to what you're doing. Thank you to all those who are going to get involved in this organisation and who are going to give it the seed corn finance it will need. I basically think that although we have an enormous budget deficit we have to deal with, although we have wars on the other side of the world that we have to fight, although we have those huge challenges, really when you think about what the first half of this century should be about in our country, I think it is about building the bigger, stronger, richer society. I think we all know that, yes, we'll sort out our economy, yes, it'll start growing again, yes, we will get people back to work again, yes, business will start investing again. We know how to do the economic bit and we will do it again. But I think we all know in our hearts what's been going wrong is actually more in our society and in our economy. So if there is a need for change and for action, which I think there is, I think that the big society is going to fill an enormous spiritual and social hole in our country, and I'm delighted to be here to have a few moments to share it with you and to answer any questions. Thank you.